The owners said, we remember you, Natasha Cloud, running your mouth during CBA negotiations. Anybody remember that? During CBA negotiations, Natasha Cloud was always dropping these videos out there like this one. Natasha Cloud, brutally honest, calls out the WNBA.
Natasha Cloud spent months calling out WNBA owners during CBA negotiations, demanding more money, criticizing league decisions publicly, making video after video about how the league wasn't paying players enough, and now she's sitting at home without a contract while training camps have already started. The owners didn't forget, and what they did next sent a message to every player in the league about the cost of being too vocal.
She remains unsigned. How about here? This was March 2nd. Natasha Cloud responds to the WNBA's new CBA proposal and brings up her issues. Keep in mind, folks, she was running her mouth about them not wanting to pay enough. How about not paying anything? Uh-oh. How about not paying anything? Because if you guys do not realize this, Natasha Cloud has got no contract.
No contract. Zero offers. And here's what makes this particularly brutal. The New York Liberty just assembled what looks like a championship roster on paper. They got creative with their salary cap. Their superstars took pay cuts to make room. They had flexibility to add depth pieces. And they looked at Natasha Cloud, a proven veteran who could contribute, and said, no thanks. That's not a basketball decision. That's a business decision with a very clear message attached.
Into an insane rant. I've given my heart to every team and community I've been a part of, never fully knowing if the impact I hoped for was truly felt. In this moment, though, receiving so much love, support, and advocacy means everything. It's a powerful reminder the impact I've wanted you to make beyond the court is real and aligned with what I believe God has called me to do through.
Listen to how she frames this. God called her to make an impact beyond the court. Marxist rhetoric wrapped in religious language. She's positioning herself as a martyr for the cause. But here's the reality check. There are 10 or 11 unrestricted free agents still unsigned, and she's one of them. Training camps started, rosters are being finalized, and nobody's calling. Her value as a player doesn't outweigh her reputation as a problem.
Because of the CBA, training camps have started. She has no team. Now, who knows? I may drop this video and somebody might sign her. But as of right now, I saw the list of unsigned, unrestricted free agents. There's like 10 or 11 on there, and she's one of them.
Now let's talk about what the Liberty actually did, because this is where it gets interesting. Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu both qualified for the Supermax at $1.4 million. They both signed for $1.1 million instead. That's $200,000 less each. $400,000 in total savings, right there. Then Jonquel Jones took a standard max when she could have pushed for more. And Satou Sabally, who absolutely could have commanded $1.2 million on the open market, signed for $815,000. Do the math. The Liberty created roughly $600,000 to $800,000 in cap flexibility by having their stars take discounts.
Last year, Stewart and Ionescu signed 3 years standard max contracts worth $1.1 million in 2026. Sabally, her contract is worth $815,000 in 2026, $855,750 in 2027. These terms come despite both Stewart and Ionescu being eligible for a $1.4 million Supermax. They both took $200,000 less. That's $400,000. That's a whole nother player.
That's enough money to sign a quality depth player. That's enough to bring in a veteran who can contribute off the bench. That's enough to sign Natasha Cloud if they wanted to. But they didn't. And when you look at who they did sign, the message becomes crystal clear. Rebecca Allen took $350,000. They filled out their roster with players who fit the culture they're building. Players who prioritize winning over individual agendas. Players who don't spend the offseason making videos criticizing ownership.
I could be a superstar, single myself out on a different team and get 1.2 or 1.4, but what I really wanted to do was win a championship. Sabali said, that's what's missing on my resume. I know I'm a great player, but I do want that ring, and I want to do it alongside people that I trust, alongside people that I really want to compete with.
Sabali said it explicitly in her press conference. She could have been a superstar on a different team making 1.2 or 1.4 million, but she wanted to win a championship alongside people she trusts, people she wants to compete with. That phrase matters. People she trusts. The Liberty are building a team around chemistry and shared sacrifice. Everyone taking less so the collective can achieve more. It's the Tom Brady model. And it works, but only if everyone buys in. Only if everyone is willing to put the team first.
All literally said, we'll Tom Brady this. We'll Tom Brady this action in order to try to get a championship. And actually, if you count Jonquel Jones, 1.19 million times 3, technically 3 players, they saved 600,000 between their big 3 and then Sabali signing for, I mean, she would have you seen some of the names that's got max contracts out there? She'd have gotten 1.2.
Natasha Cloud spent the CBA negotiations positioning herself as the voice of player empowerment, fighting for more money, demanding better treatment, calling out the league publicly, and those aren't inherently bad things. Players should advocate for themselves. They should push for fair compensation. But there's a way to do it that maintains relationships with the people who ultimately sign the checks. And there's a way to do it that burns every bridge you have. Think about this from an owner's perspective. You're investing millions into a franchise. You're trying to build a winning culture. You're asking your superstars to take pay cuts for the good of the team. And then you consider signing someone who spent the last year publicly criticizing you and your fellow owners. Someone who positioned themselves as an activist first and a basketball player second. Someone whose social media presence is all about confrontation and controversy. Do you really want that energy in your locker room? Do you want to explain to Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, who just took $200,000 pay cuts, why you're using that money to sign someone who spent the offseason trashing ownership? The answer is no, and that's exactly what happened. The Liberty said no. Every other team with cap space said no. And now Natasha Cloud is unsigned while training camps are underway. This isn't about her basketball ability. She's a solid player who can contribute. This is about owners collectively deciding that her value doesn't outweigh the headache, that her production doesn't justify the distraction, that there are other players available who can fill the same role without the baggage. Here's what makes this a defining moment for the WNBA. The league just negotiated a new CBA. Players got significant increases in salary and benefits. The revenue-sharing model improved. Charter flights became standard. A lot of what players were asking for actually happened, but the negotiation process was contentious. Some players, Natasha Cloud being the most vocal, took an adversarial approach. They positioned owners as the enemy. They made it personal. And now that the CBA is signed and teams are building rosters, those same owners are making decisions about who they want to invest in going forward. This sends a message to every player in the league. You can advocate for yourself. You can push for better conditions. You can be part of the union negotiating process, but if you make it personal, if you burn bridges publicly, if you position yourself as more activist than athlete, there will be consequences. The WNBA is still a business. Owners still control the resources, and they have long memories. Natasha Cloud is learning that lesson the hard way. She ran her mouth during negotiations. She called out the league repeatedly. She positioned herself as a revolutionary fighting against an oppressive system. And now she's sitting at home without a team, while players who took the collaborative approach are getting paid. Compare her situation to what's happening in New York. The Liberty players took less money, but they're on a championship contender with job security and a clear path to success. They prioritized winning over individual maximization. They trusted the process and the organization, and now they're in position to compete for a title with a roster full of talent and depth. That's the reward for buying in. That's what happens when you work with ownership instead of against them. Natasha Cloud chose the opposite path. She made herself the story. She prioritized her platform over her career. She bet that her activism would make her valuable enough that teams would overlook the controversy, and she lost that bet. Because at the end of the day, WNBA teams want players who can help them win games without creating distractions. They want veterans who can mentor younger players and contribute to a positive culture. They want people who understand that basketball is a team sport that requires sacrifice and collaboration. Natasha Cloud demonstrated over the past year that she doesn't fit that profile, and now she's paying the price. The timing makes this even more significant. Training camps started. Rosters are being finalized. Every day that passes without a contract makes it less likely she plays this season. Teams have moved on. They've filled their roster spots with players who fit what they're building, and even if someone gets injured and a spot opens up, will they call Natasha Cloud? Or will they look for someone else who can fill the role without the baggage? Based on what we've seen so far, they'll choose someone else. Because this isn't just about one player being unsigned. This is about the entire ownership group collectively deciding that certain behaviors have consequences. So where does this leave the WNBA? The league just came off a historic season with record ratings and attendance. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. The new CBA provides a foundation for continued growth, but this situation with Natasha Cloud reveals a tension that's not going away. How much activism is too much? How vocal can players be about social and political issues before it affects their career? Where's the line between advocacy and alienation? These are questions the league is going to have to address, because this won't be the last time a player finds themselves in this position. The lesson here is clear. In professional sports, your value is determined by what you can do on the court and how much drama you bring off it. Teams will tolerate some controversy if you're a superstar who can carry a franchise, but if you're a solid role player who's replaceable, you better make sure you're not creating problems that outweigh your production. Natasha Cloud miscalculated. She thought her activism made her valuable. She thought teams would want her despite the controversy. She was wrong. And now she's sitting at home watching other players live out the dream she sacrificed for her platform. The WNBA owners sent a message with this. They showed every player in the league that there are limits to how far you can push, that running your mouth during negotiations has consequences, that positioning yourself as an adversary to ownership will affect your career. Whether you agree with that or not, whether you think it's fair or not, it's the reality. Natasha Cloud is the example. She's the cautionary tale, and every player watching this situation understands exactly what it means. So here's the question worth debating. Should players face career consequences for being outspoken during labor negotiations? Is this ownership sending a legitimate message about professionalism, or is it retaliation against someone who fought for better conditions? Because you can't have it both ways. Either players have the right to advocate publicly without fear of blackballing, or they don't. And based on what we're seeing with Natasha Cloud, the answer is pretty clear. The owners won this round, and they made sure everyone knows it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Natasha Cloud right to speak out even if it cost her career? Or did she cross a line that made her untouchable? Let me know what you think.